UNICEF, who joins me now. James, our understanding yesterday is that 5 trucks were allowed across the crossing, but not actually into Gaza proper. As far as you're aware, has any aid actually got into Gaza yet?
Yeah, I think a handful of trucks have, Jane, in the last couple of hours. That's our understanding. And of course, look, you have to welcome every truck, every pallet, but we cannot pretend that this trickle is anything like a solution we need. I mean, there is enough food to feed 1 million people for 4 months, but it's on the wrong side of the border. And as you say there, Jane, it's been at the wrong side of the border for 2.5 months. So 2.5 months of a population on their knees with the world's foremost nutritional body warning of famine. And the only thing getting into Gaza that women and children have seen until the last 24 hours have been bombs.
How quickly, once this gets across the border, can you guys get it distributed to the population?
Look, an organisation like UNICEF, we're last mile delivery, so very quickly, Jane, and this is a big thing on aid diversion, we don't give aid to Hamas, we go straight to the people. Food goes to a child, vaccination goes into an arm, but it's just not simply enough. During the ceasefire, which was such a critical time, Jane, it was the lifeline. The ceasefire got hostages home, let aid flow, and of course allowed families to promise their kids they could go to bed and not be bombed overnight. That was 600 trucks a day, humanitarian and commercial. 600, we're talking, what, five or six after 2.5 months. That's why we have these reports of people starving. That's why UNICEF has seen the nutritional state. We've seen a doubling in malnutrition in the last month. So it's an enormous effort we're facing now, and we're also facing in a highly militarized zone. The level of attacks are more ferocious in the last couple of weeks than they have been for months.
You talk about the threat of malnutrition really rising in the last few weeks. How grave is the situation in terms of health for so many people there?
It's horrendous, Jane. I mean, there have been cases of starvation, and I've seen that. It doesn't leave you. Starvation of a child is basically where, you know, their body starts to feed on itself. First it's fat, and then it's muscle, and then that child, which was going through enormous amounts of pain, suddenly stops crying, and that's where you then realise that the body has just given up. And remembering, this is not some far-flung crisis. This is not a crisis where we need to do airdrops. All the humanitarian aid we need is at a border and has just been at a border. So it needs to flow. But for a lot of those children, it's too late. There is no doubt we are losing children from the bombardments from the sky and from disease and malnutrition on the ground, Jane, because they go hand in hand, malnutrition and a lack of sanitation. 9 in 10 people in Gaza, women and children, have to choose every day the limited water they have. Do they use it to drink or do they use it to clean? And so when you're malnourished and then you bring in diseases because the sanitation system's been devastated, that's the vicious cycle. That's what kills children.
We saw overnight a statement from Keir Starmer and Emmanuel Macron and Mark Carney in Canada condemning what is happening and using quite strong words. What did you make of this statement? Do you feel that something has shifted? The language feels to have moved up a level?
I think it has, but I think, you know, I was first in Gaza, Jane, in November 2023, and it was very clear what was happening then. It was very clear the level of indiscriminate attacks, what was happening in hospitals, you know, seeing children burnt in their homes, and again seeing the denials of aid. So there is no doubt that those with leverage need to absolutely use it. This already is a stain. But there are families holding on. When I talk to families, they talk about we are surviving. That's the benchmark. So yes, all of those, of course, all those officials, anyone with leverage needs to use every aspect of their leverage, of course. And for those in Gaza, it has to go beyond language, of course.
What would you like to see in terms of action?
It's got to be a ceasefire. You know, it's still abhorrent. There are mums or brothers or sisters who are hostages somewhere in Gaza. A ceasefire lets aid flow. A ceasefire ensures aid workers can work without being killed. It's the most number of aid workers killed of any conflict since World War II. And remembering ceasefires have been the game changer forever. Even just if we talk of hostages, during ceasefires, during negotiations, Jane, we've had 150 hostages go home. Under military means it's less than 10. So if we're serious about Gazans, women, children, getting hostages home, bringing some peace to that region, it has to be a ceasefire.
We're seeing a butting up of words in international politics about this. I wonder what it's like on the ground between your aid workers and the Israeli authorities on these checkpoints. What is the atmosphere like down there?
Well, the last couple of months, of course, around checkpoints, we've had no aid. So there's been no distribution. There's nothing coming in. Prior to that, look, they are the occupying power. It's done with the greatest respect. The job of the United Nations is simply to go through all the requirements of clearances of loading and unloading and get that aid to people. Having said that, having been to Gaza numerous times, Jane, I've seen the games played. I've been stopped for 6 or 7 hours for no possible reasons, turned back, allowed only to move into a highly militarized zone at night time, knowing we'd have to return. So the United Nations, we don't have weapons. All we can do is use goodwill and follow all the rules. But following those rules does not always get aid to the children and to the families in Gaza.
OK, James Elder from UNICEF. Really good to talk to you. Thanks very much for joining us.